Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jaquise Moore. I am the host of this awesome page, Learning with Jasmine. I just want to say I'm a mother, just an awesome advocate for this platform. And this is April. April is Autism Awareness Month, even though it's 24/7, 365 days for me. And both of the awesome guests are on there shaking their head because they understand, they know what I'm just talking about. And so we're going to come on and we're going to be talking about boys versus girls on the spectrum, this autism spectrum disorder or autism. They want to, whatever you want to call it, based upon it. But um, there's also, I mean, I would say boys and girls in general, we have a difference, right? Everyone, girls and girls, twins and triplets or whatever it is, there's just always something that's different than the other person. So please do not think that this is just an autism moment, even though it's Autism Awareness Month, but just to be mindful of, just in general, we are all different, okay? And I think that's where we sometimes forget that we are all different versus the normal versus the abnormal, whatever you want to call it. So this is definitely where we're going to bring awareness to the community. If you do not know me, I'm a strong voice lady. I will tell it like it is. And I love this. Somebody that I have 30 days with you, whether you like me or not, for different topics. And if you have not listened to the last 3 days, definitely please go on, share it. We're also on Learning with Jasmine YouTube. You can share it among alpha people from off of Facebook, and you can go from there. So anyway, well, let's get started with introductions. I'm not sure who you want to go first, but you can definitely talk to the community, please.
I'll go first. My name's Colleen Garabin. I do have a Facebook page, and I have my two beautiful children on there. I have a boy and a girl. He's 5 and she's turning 4 next month. So they're pretty close in age. They both were diagnosed at the age of 2.5, and the differences, when you talk about the differences between boys and girls, I don't know if it's a boy and a girl thing, but there's definitely a huge difference between the both of them. Yet they were both diagnosed level 3 ASD. And so as far as like the diagnosis goes,
I'm gonna stop you there. I feel like you about to go and dive. Yeah. It's great that you're gonna dive in, but we're gonna just introduce, and then you can come back and really go in more depth. Okay. So the next guest, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Autumn. As Juki said, I'm autistic myself. I'm on the spectrum, as are my mother and both of my siblings. And I'm also a registered RBT for behavioral therapy for kids on the spectrum. And I've done respite care work with kids on the spectrum. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for both. And let me tell you guys how I met them, okay? Colleen and we met through Learning with before Learning with Jasmine. I think it was Autism and Us. Yeah, Autism and Us. Definitely a great another advocate page, Autism Us, big up, because they introduced to me and I introduced them. So we're definitely collaborating with each other. So we introduced because I made a comment, and then that's how we just joined in. And like I said, we actually have Learning with Jasmine actually has a Learning with Jasmine family support. So Learning with Jasmine not just has a show, but Learning with Jasmine, I do have available contacts with parents, and if they want to vent, if they want to ask questions, if once or every 2-3 months, I pop in and say, hey, how are you doing? That's how Colleen and I have been connecting. And then Autumn, and I kind of say, when I say Lori, because it says Lori, but Lori, Autumn's mother was on our show last month, and did a 3 series of her all 3 grown children. And so she did speak about Autumn and her 2 other siblings. And so that's how now Autumn and I are connected. So it's a great community, you guys. It's all about community. That's how I feel. It's about, like, I'm not the only parent or I'm not the only person that feels like the way I've been feeling, right? And so this is what it's all about. So we're going to jump into it really quickly. It's not going to be long, you guys. It's just an awareness that I want you all to be aware of it. It's not also, it's also this segment in April is not really for those who have autism, because that's not what awareness is all about. If everyone has autism, that's not the thing. That's not what all of it's for those who, I mean, it's true. It's for those who could, okay, here's a foundation. So now let me research. That's what it's all about. And so that's why we're not giving a long presentation. We're going to give you a little something for you to just go and research yourself, to bring more awareness to the community. That's what the focus is for the entire April. So Colleen, you were gonna jump onto it, please. So you have a daughter and you have a son. And just go from how you have observed, what have you observed, and all that other stuff.
Well, with him, I pretty much diagnosed him when he was 6 months old. And I didn't need a doctor to tell me that he was autistic. I think it was an Autism Speaks commercial, and it was a little cartoon. I don't know, you can look it up. It's really cute, but it's what drew me to being aware of what autism was, because they had a commercial, and it was a little boy going through a scary world, and not being able to look at people in the eyes. Well, he stopped looking at us in the eyes, and he started hitting himself in the head, and he wouldn't lay on his belly. He wouldn't, just those milestones that are missing. Like that's what they say when they're looking for autism. It's not the presence of something, it's the absence of those milestones.
Okay, let me stop giving for now. We've already talked about milestones in day 2, you guys. So again, go back to my videos, and I will give you, and then last night we talked about the assessment. So we talked about what is autism the very first day. We talked about milestones. The second day, the signs of autism. Yesterday we talked about assessment. So please go back and review those things. Okay, continue, please.
Yeah. And so with him, he's very sensory, and I mean, he always has been. He loves squishes and he loves squeezes, and he's always just been happy-go-lucky boy, and he doesn't play with toys like they're intended. He won't, he'll kind of hit on them and stuff, but he doesn't like watch cartoons or anything. He's in his little world. And with her, she was hard to say that she had autism. I knew she did. I just didn't know what severity of it was. And the way they test, it's the way they test. And but with her, she is more into the world, and into music, and cartoons and toys, and she's been saying little words, and I also know that like behaviorally with her, she's different because well, they diagnosed her as global developmental delay as well. So that must be what the difference is between her and Tobias. You know, and the world of the environment has more of an effect on her. And that's what
Right.
I'm learning, and my reactions and my like what's going on inside of me, and how I react to her. And
Right.
it lately it's been a struggle with her because she can't communicate what she wants, but she's trying to draw us to what she wants, like say it's for a walk or it's for a bath. But if she doesn't get it, she automatically goes into a meltdown and starts hitting herself. And you know, you can stop that only so much, you know, when they do that. And but you know, they complement each other. They don't play with each other
Mhm.
like siblings do, but they parallel play. They'll play next to each other, and they love each other, you know. Tobias will have a little smirk on his face, and he'll grab her hand. And the love
Oh,
between the siblings, you know, brother and sister.
oh,
When I had him and I was pregnant with her, because they're so close in age, um I was so scared. I almost put her up for adoption. And because I knew without a diagnosis that I was going to have struggles ahead with Tobias, and I wanted to focus on Tobias. He needed that. And me having another newborn baby was going to take a lot of that from him as a baby, and it did, but we got through it. I'm so thankful that I have my daughter and my son. God gave them to me for a reason. And um not even gave to me, I'm blessed to have them. and
right.
and you know, and it's anywho, I could go on about that.
Yeah. Oh, yay. I'm so happy too. Definitely. I know from having conversations with you, Colleen, you are definitely a great mom. You are definitely a great mom. And, you know, we've had those conversations with global development delay. You know, our daughters have both global development delay. And for those who do not know about global development delay, research that. Okay, research that. It's totally different than autism. Totally different. Okay. I think sometimes that I feel like if I only had a child that has autism, I would be like, okay, I'm good. But golden mama is a step up. It's based upon my reaction of what I don't, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness. Now I don't have that stress moment, but definitely I used to have the stress, and I was wondering why it was global delay versus the autism side of her. So I definitely researched global development delay, and so what we're gonna do now is Autumn. I want you to tell us on your side of being, you know, having the diagnosis, growing up, and then kind of put in your research and, you know, being who you are professionally, if you can give us some differences. And then I also want to, at the end, I want to really talk to you all about some things that I think the three of us, because, you know, not only, and I don't have autism, but my daughter, we kind of know that girls are diagnosed later. Okay, so that's a good stretch right there. Um, you know, and then go. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that, but definitely, Autumn, if you can give us your personal and your professional.
So personally, my siblings were both diagnosed a lot younger than I was. So my brother was diagnosed quite young. And then my sister was diagnosed in grade school, which is late compared to most boys when they're getting diagnosed. And that's super common, obviously, for, well, maybe not obviously for people who don't know, but for those of us who are in the community, we know that that's pretty common, that girls tend to get diagnosed a lot later. So I was assessed by the same neurologist who assessed both my siblings, and well, my sister, not my brother. But so at the time, the issue was that he said that I was meeting the threshold for a lot of the traits, but the problem was that he said I didn't hit a lot of the social deficits, and so he was not able to diagnose me initially. So he listed as what he called borderline, which essentially means like he thought I was autistic, but he couldn't officially say it because I didn't meet the social deficit threshold. Which is a little frustrating because with a lot of growing number of studies they're doing now, we're actually learning that boys and girls actually display autism traits differently statistically. And so girls don't actually seem to struggle with social the same way that boys do. And that's due to something called masking. So masking is where girls tend to be better at being able to mirror and mimic their peers' behavior. So to the outside observer, we appear neurotypical, and it appears that you can hold a conversation and that you can even sometimes manage eye contact much better. So when people are talking to me, I manage eye contact almost too well sometimes, very intense. But when I'm talking to someone else, I have a really hard time making eye contact, and I'll look everywhere but at them while I'm talking. I don't know what the difference is for me between the two situations, but it is. But I am better at it than a lot of the males that I work with in my job, for example. A lot of the boys have eye contact just across the board. It's a real struggle. And I didn't have that quite the same that most of the boys do. And so when you go in to see a doctor and you're getting assessed, which like Jacquees said, she did a little segment on the assessment already, but when you go in, aside from just the list that they're going off of, they also, a lot of doctors kind of use their vibe with the child that you're getting assessed.
Right.
And if they feel like you're socially adept with them, then
socially engaged in the conversation, then they're like,
they're like, I don't see a problem here. And so the issue is, if a girl can mimic, they're going to be able to hold that conversation and flip it back at them. But internally, it doesn't feel natural. So I feel like I can't connect socially. I always feel like I'm saying the wrong thing. I always feel awkward. I always feel like an imposter almost. Like people are going to see through me and see that there's something like wrong with me. Not that there's anything wrong, but it feels that way.
Right.
And so, sorry, my dog.
That's okay. Okay.
So that's really difficult for girls on the spectrum, that because doctors see that social adeptness, they automatically kind of write them off and they won't give that diagnosis because of the social. But we're learning now that that is actually a huge piece that is completely different statistically from boys. So that was a frustrating issue because I felt different and I felt like I wasn't fitting in, and I felt awkward and lost. And even if I could have friends, I didn't feel like they actually liked me, like they were my friends. And that perception was always really difficult. And I still have that to this day. I have a best friend I'm very grateful for. God definitely sent her to me. She's understanding and loving and caring, and she's everything I need. And I still, to this day, we have daily conversations about the fact that I often will retreat for a few days at a time and not want to engage with her or take her calls because I feel like she doesn't really want to talk to me, feel like she's only doing it to make me feel better. And I don't want to force her to be my friend. And so that's a really exhausting thing for, I think, friendships, that friends have a really hard time with it too, that even though girls on the spectrum can be more social, they're only appearing to be more social. Internally, all of that struggle is still there, and all of those feelings are still there.
I'm reminiscing because actually it was interesting because a couple weeks ago, I was like, man, that's one thing I know for a fact that Jasmine should not go to any schools right now because not only just the pandemic, but it's because not really just a pandemic. it is literally that she has had so many issues in the school system because of her diagnosis, because, and I mean, and I this is all in love, whatever, but also because she's a minority, also because she may not fit to the the line of where, of course she's a girl. It was just her and another girl with 12 other boys in one classroom. I mean, that was huge, and I was like, oh no, she is not going to go in that classroom, and they're like, oh, well, that's the majority of this classroom's going to look like that. And I'm like, but that's crazy, and so, and I think she was like the only, everything was like maybe two other minorities and then her, that's it. And so we have the whole, one of the, I would say, richest county schools, but, they were still not giving her the respectful education that I think she deserved. Okay. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter like how much money you have, right? And so the simple fact that he's doing much better in a homeschool environment, one-on-one, homeschool program, awesome program, that virtual program that she's in, she has all A's and B's, but one thing that I really like, oh my goodness, is friends. She misses her friends. She uses her dolls as friends, as people. And then a couple of days ago, she said to me and her dad, she was like, my friends on YouTube. Oh, okay. Yeah, you need to talk to somebody real. It's just like, yeah. And so today she had a real virtual conversation with a real person that she knows growing up, as babies. And she was just like, hi, nothing really, conversation. And she's like so happy to see her friend, but it was hard for her to interact and communicate and all that stuff. Yeah. So, it's just simple fact that I definitely understand about social, even in the simple fact that before pandemic, she wanted to be around friends, she wanted to be around kids, but she didn't know how to interact with the children versus other children like, okay, let's play, and then they will hold her hand and basically drag her around. And I'm like, oh no, sweetie, just let her walk by herself, type of thing. But that's what it is, and she wants that, but doesn't know how to, number one, express it, and then it's a challenge for her. So I definitely understand what you're saying, Autumn. Yeah. You want to piggyback on what Autumn was saying?
Well, no, as far as like the difference between boys and girls, I didn't really think about that before. It's not something I really thought about, but I have a prime example of boys and girls. And when it came to, I guess that you said there was a study about how they can mimic more, or is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, it's called masking. Yeah, but it's the ability to mimic other peers' social behavior.
Okay. Yeah, and I see that in her. But I don't see, she definitely has severe social issues, but or however you would put it. But yeah, I definitely see the difference with a boy and a girl. And I mean, he's definitely more in his little world, in his little shell. And she can actually interact with us in a different way.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys, I really wanted to also say, and this is, let me bring it up really quickly, and then we're gonna go. Because I said, remember I said this is just for the awareness, okay? This is actually from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And so they had a study, girls and boys on the autism spectrum tell stories differently, could explain misdiagnosis in girls. And I wanted to say boys are 4 times more likely than girls to be diagnosed with autism. Yet a growing body of research shows that the tie that the condition is more common in girls than previously thought, strongly suggesting that new methods are required to diagnose the disorder at younger ages. And I also want to say that a misdiagnosis means many girls do not receive early intervention, and that standard intervention may not be appropriate for many girls' unique needs. Many autistic women are not diagnosed until they are adults and report significant social challenges, like we just mentioned, and a profound sense of being different from their typical developing peers. And I literally was blown away a couple of days ago when I saw a post of a 50-plus-year-old woman who was just diagnosed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
50 plus.
That's crazy.
Was just diagnosed. So, I mean, it's like, you have the gender, then you have the race, then you have the language, the different, if you're not English, if you're English second language, then you have the location, you have all those type of things that comes along with it. Like I didn't know about autism in girls, as a preschool teacher for 20 years. I didn't know about autism girls, and I mentioned this last night or the night before that even special ed in general was more so negative than positive. And so I have to be honest with you, I didn't want to be a special ed teacher just because it was a lot of things that were more negative. No one, so this is why I love this fact that, this is, people say, oh my goodness, it's April. This is where we make the loudest noise, right? April. But I wanted to say that please continue on, bring awareness to the community in a positive way than more so in a negative way, because I am I'm in the 40 range age, and I only knew of the positive until I started as a parent, learning about autism as a parent, but not when I was like looking at different education programs to do as as a student. It was a turn off because I only saw everything as negative, instead of positive. But our children are awesome. They're going to even Autumn, I commend you. I thank you, all that other stuff, because some fact that you know from experience, and now you're helping other individuals that are on that have autism. I don't like to call it the spectrum, so I have to change the way I'm about to say my sentence. I don't like the word spectrum. I just don't. I just don't like the spectrum because I just don't like the spectrum. But I don't like the word that word. But just because they have autism, like for me, I have dyslexia. I have dyslexia, and I'm about to graduate in my master's program. Okay, like it's something that comes along with growth and strength and encouragement and the village. And so I definitely recommend you guys to stick together, to bring more awareness. I want to thank Colleen and I want to thank Autumn for this awesome opportunity to bring awareness from the heart to you guys. I'm just a mom, but just to bring other people that along is awesome, you guys. And so again, if you guys want to join another day, just let me know and we're gonna go from there. So until next time, you guys, and tomorrow, let me bring up what we're gonna be doing tomorrow. Tomorrow is early child intervention for children with autism, kind of like what we said tonight. So 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, you guys, have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.